Welcome to Wallace Way of Life. It has been a while since we've done a video just because we had to move into our new house and things have been a little bit crazy around here, but we are finally settled in and we wanted to do a little bitty video about Liana's adoption and show you guys our little girl.
Say hey. What's your name? Say Liana. Tell him.
What's your name?
You don't know it.
Oh, she forgot.
Can you blow kisses?
Hi, Naraya.
No, Raya. You're not Raya. Who are you? Blow a kiss.
What's your name? Oh.
Do it.
Blow it to everybody. Blow it to everybody.
So it was, I guess, the end of 2016. We were not really looking to adopt.
Yeah, we were.
Not actively. We had Naraya. She was with us through foster care, and she had been with us, I guess, about less than a year. Mm-hmm. And I was on these advocacy websites for children in China, orphans who needed a family, and I would show David pictures of kids and
usually every night at about 2 a.m. That's all she did was scroll pictures. What about her? What about him? What about her?
Then I think I was in the grocery store and I started getting, my phone started dinging like one after the other, and it was messages from Esther, the lady from the agency, and she had, this was before they changed all the rules and you could view a child's file before you had a home study done. So she had sent me Liana's file and she said, what about this child? And at that point her only special needs that they had listed on her file was developmental delay, and she was maybe a few weeks from turning 2, I guess, at the time that we saw her file. So, I mean.
So after reviewing her file, we decided that the unknowns were just too much for us at that time, and so we said no to Liana.
Because at that point we'd only seen a few pictures and we'd seen one video, and in well, I guess there were 2 videos. None of the videos, her legs weren't moving at all, and the file said that she could sit up, she couldn't walk, she couldn't bear weight on her legs, she couldn't cruise along, holding on to anything, she couldn't feed herself, she really couldn't do anything but sit up. Mm-hmm. And she had just learned how to do that, just gotten the strength to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think we knew that there was something else probably there.
But we sent her file to a doctor in New York to review and get a second opinion, see what he thought about it.
He said there was still a possibility of cerebral palsy, which is what, we were kind of
questioning. That's what we were concerned about, but then he said, but I don't think she does, based on looking at...
Because she'd had a CT scan, or a CT scan in her file, and everything read normal. And typically CP is diagnosed with a brain scan, and there's some kind of brain damage, and that brain damage causes either high muscular tone or low muscular tone. She was on the low muscular tone end. He said there was definitely still a possibility, but he didn't, see it and what we had presented to him. But what made us send the video was because there was another video of her that I came across, and she was laughing and smiling, and she was kicking her legs. So we said yes on February 26th.
I don't know how you remember that.
2017.
What time?
I don't know. In the evening, probably. But we were in China February 26th, 2017, or 18, the very next year. Yeah. That was the day that we met her. It was a year to the day that we got to go get her. And we went to Hangzhou, which was it's a popular tourist city in China, and it's in the province of Zhejiang. I always say it wrong. My Chinese friends always correct me, but She was actually from Dongyang City, which was a really small city about 2 hours from Hangzhou where we were. And next morning we went into the civil affairs office and got her, and her orphanage was late bringing her.
We were just sitting around this table just like, when is she going to show up?
Oh.
And I remembered the day they brought her to us. As soon as, I guess, I held her, or even before I held her and I was just looking at her, I could tell she was definitely delayed. And she wasn't like Samuel, who just bounced around, and when we first got him you could tell he was just a healthy kid.
Happy. He was happy.
He was happy as could be. Not this little girl. Not Liana.
She just stared at us with this like blank,
Yeah.
like there was nothing there stare. She was very floppy. I think you read a file and you hear developmental delay, you hear low muscle tone, but until you've actually ever held a child like that, it was just, her feet just hung. They call it drop foot. Like she didn't even have enough tone in her legs to even hold her feet up, so her feet just hung.
This girl's gonna take some work.
Yeah, she
That's
couldn't.
what I get.
She didn't know how to play with
we
toys.
got some work. We got some work already.
She didn't know how to play with toys. She didn't know. She couldn't pick anything up.
She couldn't pick anything up.
She couldn't chew food.
Gosh.
She would pocket
It's almost
food.
hard to even believe the short amount of time we've had her, the few years that we have had her, how far she's come since we got her. Because I would have never imagined she's doing the things she is now.
No.
It's totally, totally different child. Totally.
And she blossomed even in China. I mean, we had a lot of. She would wake up screaming to the top of her lungs.
She still wakes up screaming.
She does that sometimes.
Every night.
She has night terrors.
Every night.
But she would actually wake up from her sleep and it would be in the morning, and she would scream because she was scared. She didn't know where she was, and she learned before we even flew out of her province, which we were there for like 5 days. She figured out how to pick her jacket up with her hands,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see the light just come on in her eyes,
I
you
do
knew
that?
she learned it.
How did I do that?
Yeah. And she sat on the airplane flying to Guangzhou, and she just pick her coat up and drop it, and pick her coat up and drop it, and I mean it was like she was experiencing so much for the first time, and I really think it was just one-on-one attention.
I think she just sat in a crib. Her whole life, she sat in a crib and was given a bottle. No food.
And all of a sudden, these two people are doting on her.
Yeah.
Or constantly in her face. I think
she was not
she didn't always
used
like
to
it.
that. her adoption was so much different from Samuel because he transitioned so easy into the family, and she was completely
I tried to carry her in a baby carrier and an Ergo baby carrier, and she hated it. She would actually put her hands up and like push herself away from me because she just wasn't used to being
close to somebody,
held like that. Yeah. But so we flew to Guangzhou and we went to the U.S. consulate and got all that done. And about 13 days after we arrived in China, we flew home, and it was her 3rd birthday. The day that she became a U.S. citizen was her 3rd birthday. So when we brought her home, she went to the doctor immediately, and the pediatrician, we asked her, we were like, what do you think? Liana was bald. They had shaved her head all off. She basically...
She looked like a boy.
We wheeled her around everywhere, and we had to feed her ourselves. She couldn't self-feed, and she couldn't chew. Her tone in her mouth was so low that she mushed food between the roof of her mouth and her tongue. She could not even lift her tongue to the top of her mouth, and still struggles with that. But her teeth were rotten because of the food that she held in her mouth. She would go to bed with food in her mouth if you didn't dig it out.
Food or just milk?
Mushed. Yeah. And so we ended up having to take her back to baby food. So she was 3 years old, eating baby food, applesauce, yogurt. It was very much like an oversized infant.
A heavy infant.
Yeah.
Our pediatrician, while we were in our meeting, and I asked her, what's wrong with Liana? What do you think is wrong with Liana? And at that time she said, based on what I'm looking at, she said, I think she has microcephaly just because of the way her head was shaped and the way she appeared to her.
Her delays.
Yeah.
Which microcephaly is basically, it's basically a small head is what it is. And the cause of it is a child has experienced some sort of brain damage, and so the brain isn't growing at the rate that it should be, and so therefore the head doesn't grow like it should. And there's more severe cases than her. Like if you look at her today, you can't really tell. But she definitely has the shorter forehead. They usually have a short forehead, and so we knew that we were looking at a possible brain damage. We knew that she was premature when she was found. She was only about 4 pounds, and she was very jaundiced. And so just putting kind of the puzzle piece together, it was really becoming apparent that there was some kind of damage, or she'd had a stroke, or there was something that had happened that we were unaware of.
I honestly thought she was fine. It was Angela that kept saying, I'm telling you, there's something wrong, something's not right. And I was just kept thinking to myself, she'll be fine, she'll just outgrow it, there's nothing wrong, she's just a little delayed, she's sat in a crib her whole life.
The second Narai came back home, though, Narai stayed with some friends of ours for the time that we were gone, and when she brought Narai back, it was like World War III in our house.
It was like, is still today.
There's only 13 months difference between Narai and Liana, and because of Liana's delays, it was very much like what they call artificial twinning, which is, they don't recommend it. Social workers don't usually recommend it, but it's when you adopt a child that is the same age or very close in age to another child that you have in the home, and it was not, and still, is not pleasant. We've come a long way, but they duke it out, that's for sure. Sometimes They wear the same size, essentially.
They
and
fight over shoes. They fight
so
over clothes. They fight over mommy.
It's crazy. You know, eventually our pediatrician did send us for an MRI, which is a sedated test. And Liana was diagnosed with, they call it PVL, which is like periventricular glucose something. Basically, she had damage to the white matter of her brain. And the pediatrician said she either has had a stroke at some point, or there was an intrauterine infection while her birth mother was pregnant with her. But the thing was, they couldn't tell us what they thought she would do, or where she would go, or it was just all still so unknown.
Lots of unknowns. That's all we got, was just unknowns.
It was basically, we got the why. We got why she was so delayed. Living in an orphanage and sitting in a crib didn't help none. Like, I think she would have walked sooner had she been in America from birth and in a family, but...
We drove to South Carolina and went to Shriners. Let me tell you, they are some of the best doctors, and we came out of that first doctor's appointment really feeling like we got a diagnosis and could move forward, and it was actually very encouraging because the doctor told us, she said she definitely has cerebral palsy, and I believe she'll walk. And not only do I believe she'll walk, I think she'll walk in 6 months. By the next appointment, she said by the next appointment in 6 months, because they wanted to see her in 6 months, she'll be walking. And we were, at this time, she was still...
Well, she said she didn't know what kind of capacity she would be walking in. It might just
with
be 2
braces,
steps.
she said she might have braces.
It might be a
she
walker.
Might be a walker, but she will in some form be walking.
Be mobile, yeah. I think we just felt encouraged.
We did. We left there feeling...
We finally talked to somebody that was like, this was her specialty. This doctor, you know, her name was Dr. Heyer, I think, and this was her specialty. This was one thing that she specialized in. She saw lots of kids with this condition. They did all kinds of x-rays. We learned that Liana had hip dysplasia, so her hips kind of weren't sitting in the socket very well, and that's something that we have to get followed up on again, and another x-ray to see if she needs surgery for it. And they ordered her AFO braces to help stabilize her feet and give her strength in her feet and her legs, and it was just...
Shriners, can't say enough good about them.
They were amazing. From the moment we walked in the door, they were amazing.
Yeah.
And so we got her braces. She was going to a school and doing a special needs program, and it was actually last year she started the four-year-old program, 4-year-old class, and the physical therapist got her started on a walker, and that was where she took off. They sent him home in March because of the coronavirus, and at that point she had turned 5 at the beginning of March 9th, 2020, and she started walking. Dad, watch me. Good job, Liana! Yay!
My goodness.
Say yay! Did you do it?
Yes!
Yes!
We just started taking videos. I remember it was just...
We just started standing like across the room from each other and encouraging her. She was using this little baby walker thing that she walked behind, and she started doing that, and then she would take 2 or 3 steps, and then it got to where, you know, if she scooted, she would scoot on her bottom. She learned to get around really fast that way, but whenever she would do that, we would say, nope, Liana, get up and walk, get up and walk.
She could do it.
Because we knew the more she did it, the more that she would, you know, she would get better and stronger.
Yeah.
Now she runs.
It's unbelievable. The girl runs, okay?
Oh, it's so funny.
It's hard to believe.
People that haven't seen her in a while will come over and she'll run to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, Liana's running. She can climb ladders. She's just...
Climb the stairs.
She
unassisted.
climbs the stairs
Makes
unassisted.
mommy nervous.
She changes her own clothes. She's
All the time.
fully potty trained.
Fully potty trained. That's...
She's obsessed with shoes and always has to put a pair on. Walk around the house in them.
Changes them 20
She
times
walks
a day.
in flip-flops. I mean, that's a feat in itself. You know, we thought with Samuel's adoption, we thought God blew us away. And when Narai was placed in our home, we thought God blew us away. With Liana, He raised the bar. I mean, we